So good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to open the July 1st Board of Health meeting. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. Town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to the Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns related to open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring, but it is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of the comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room, which are not incorporated in the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. People that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you call in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone so that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion. We ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you've called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chairperson of the raised hands, and the chairperson will determine whether or when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request that participants return their microphone back to mute. So, Jim, do you want to get us started with any updates?
Sure. So I got a call today by way of your office from a resident in town who was inquiring about the basketball courts and whether they would be open. And the comments were that in other towns, kind of like we have with the playgrounds, a note on the courts stating that they're unsupervised and here are the rules for using them. I said I would certainly check with those other towns and see what they were doing, and that the call really isn't the Board of Health. The Board of Health really has an advisory role in all of this. So I guess I wanted to throw it out there to the board tonight. I haven't had a chance today to contact the town he mentioned in particular was Concord. I was going to give the Concord Board of Health a call and see how they were handling that. So I was just throwing it out there as a comment from somebody in town who was looking to have the basketball courts open. I don't know if any of the board members have had any feedback on the opening of the playgrounds.
Have they opened? Because I think it was one time last week I went by Long Lake and the snow fence is still up. I think, Kevin, you were going to talk to them about that on the 30th?
Yeah, we had the Parks and Rec meeting, and they were short-staffed, didn't have the capacity to open it up. I believe it's on Alicia's agenda to get that opened up, and they'll do it as soon as they can.
Okay, I guess anything else, Jim?
So, and that last week, last COVID meeting, I'm not sure when it was, Louise asked for an update on life care.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of compiling information, both from information we have in-house from our public health nurse and from the records of the Department of Public Health. I just want to let you know the last reported case we received at our office was May 21st. Tamara finished up with her calls. They were having, at one point, they were 7 days a week. But now, then they kind of went down to 2 days a week, and now I think they may still be having them. The facility with DPH, we're not involved anymore, haven't been since the end of May. The facility has taken the following actions to control and manage the inside segregation of residents, testing, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And they certainly, the day I visited to do the kitchen inspection, had plenty of PPE on hand. In a recent call Tamara had with the facility, the residents are all considered recovered at this point in time, which would kind of be indicative of the fact that we haven't seen a positive case since 5/21. So a couple of things have happened at the state level. One is the state has been doing or having caused clinical audits of the long-term care facilities in town. I guess they have a 20, this information is up on the Department of Public Health's website. They have a 28-point infection control checklist that they use for the audit. It sounds like the process requires facilities to be audited at least twice. Their terms for essentially in compliance, the term is instead in adherence with those 28 points of the infection control. And if you look at the website, Life Care has been in adherence, if you will, with those on both of their audits. When the state was offering some additional money to help long-term care facilities do some improvements in their infection control and safety at the facilities, one of the requirements was testing of staff and of the residents. They encouraged 100%, but they required at least 90% of the residents be tested. So again, Life Care, their staff testing was at 94, and their resident testing was 93. So I assume they received additional monies if they applied for them. So all of those factors together seem to kind of indicate that they're on track to, kind of back to normal, whatever that means. I don't know if any questions. Like I say, the information on the clinical audits and the baseline testing, facility baseline testing, is up at the Department of Public Health. It's in the statistics section there, the daily reports. There's another one it's called Public Health Reports, and it goes into the long-term care facility information. I don't know if anyone has any questions or.
100% recovered sounds good.
Yes, and again, to me, I think their census is somewhere in the mid-60s, maybe at this point. And I think they had started with the census of close to 115, 118.
Well, with the decline in the number of cases being reported statewide, statistically, it's going to take something drastic to reignite the fire at any of these places. So let's hope people continue doing what they've been doing.
Sure, and again, one of the things you're seeing is they've some limited opening to visit with patients or residents in the facility. So hopefully that's being done in such a manner to prevent the thing that you're talking about.
I mean, like outside.
Yeah, outside. Yeah,
and making sure all the personnel are adhering to the three principles.
Yes, exactly.
If we're done with the Life Care Center issue, can we go back to the basketball question for a moment?
Sure. No, like I said, I'm throwing it out there to the board to see what it is you'd like to do.
Yeah. In general, Kevin, are there any data flowing back, for example, from either the summer camp, and I realize it's not basketball, I'm trying to get an idea of what is being observed on the ground about the ability of Littleton residents to keep social distancing and wear masks. Anything from the Park and Rec data?
They are taking temperatures every morning. They're having families do it at home, and then again when they arrive. And they haven't had to send anybody home yet. Everybody's been social distancing, and the group number sizes seem to be on track with the guidance. And knock on wood, seems that everything was going well last week. I think they had 2 or 3 days of camp last week by the time we had our meeting, and it was fine. I think there were like 29 or 30 campers. I think next week it's going to be maybe up to 50, 60. So we'll see, I guess, as the number of attendees increase, things can stay on track, but I think they have a good handle on it.
Okay, I got very interested in the transit between the beach, I'll call it, and the Shaker Lane site. And on more than one occasion, I noticed that on the return trip, if there was social distancing, the social distancing was cut to 2 feet or less.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you had actually witnessed it.
Oh, yeah. But I'm not complaining because we're talking about behavior, and it's very nice to you know, what I'm reflecting on is a concern that with the numbers coming very positive for the state, that we don't let the folks around town and the people who are in camp don't put their guard down. I mean, we can't let go.
Right.
Mike, were they wearing masks when they were walking back and forth?
Oh yeah. I only saw a few masks off, but that's still well below average you see elsewhere. I mean, I've seen the videos from other towns and out of state where, it's crazy. And also there is the other thing I observed, and it sort of fooled me from a distance until I got a little closer, is there are a group of I'll call them, looks like maybe high school or first year college kids who are getting up in the morning, late morning, and basically doing a run down Goldsmith. Sorry, sort of like dumb things, but it just so happens that I'm going by there fairly early in the morning, and they're running sort of no masks. When you're running, it's probably not a big deal, but they're certainly not at a distance, and it may not matter. They're young, and also they're running, so who knows? So to me, I'm not interested in nailing anybody or individual. It's just that I'm looking for behaviors that begin. I don't want to see folks in town, even though we're small, start backing off from the social distancing, the masks, and the hygiene. I don't know what you've seen, Jim, or anyone else has seen, but that's it. That's my worry. It's not what individuals are doing.
So mine has been in the retail stores that I've been in, and so far the compliance is still pretty high. I was curious, Kevin, I wasn't able to make the meeting Tuesday. Did they have any indication how the beach activities were going other than camp?
I don't know if they had started going to the beach at that point on Tuesday yet.
Okay.
I know they had, there was no conversation about it, but they had acknowledged that they're able to go now. I don't know if they had it. Oh, Mike, when did you see them going to the beach?
It was this week.
After Tuesday?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that they had... No,
to be clear, they were coming from the beach. They were walking up Goldsmith, heading toward Shaker Lane. Or the Shaker Lane School.
Yeah, there wasn't much conversation about walking to the beach yesterday.
Again, to Mike's point about behavior, I was just curious. I know they had good luck with it. Seems like people doing the right thing at the beach. So I was just wondering if that was continuing.
Yeah, I'm sure they have it under control over there. Kaz is doing a great job, and he's got a great staff.
But you don't have any, shall we say, either verbal or written, shall we say, actual reports. You didn't ask and they didn't volunteer anything.
Yeah, negative, right.
Okay. So maybe the next time, if you get a chance to meet with them, have a direct request and ask.
Right.
Well, I'll talk to the camp and see if I can just explain to them that you either all masks on or all social distancing, one or the other. Probably the masks are the important thing because the kids, the cadence, they may walk right into each other. So,
yep.
Sorry, I lost my internet. What did I miss?
A party.
I think Mike was trying to gauge the public adherence, if you will, towards mask wearing and the other public health protocols. And I assume, Mike, I'm not going to speak for you, but in conjunction with discussion about the basketball courts.
Yeah, that one has me more worried than all the other stuff we've ever discussed, or not worried, just it's more opportunities, especially given, quote, how healthy, unquote, our population seems to be at this point. So I'm just I'm just wondering, basketball is hard. I mean, at least I think basketball is one of the more difficult sports to talk about keeping distance and keeping fluids away from each other, masks or no masks. Masks are not the greatest things to wear when you're running up and down a court or shooting baskets with some people in front of you, hands on. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I think everybody here knows this is not a dentist office where you can put dams in everybody. So
yeah, just to interrupt you real quick, Mike. Sorry. The conversation with Parks and Rec folks was that they were opening up Castle in the Trees, but similar to the state guidance on outdoor sports that are more contact and sharing equipment and things like that. They were just going to wait a little bit longer before they made the decision to open up those basketball courts.
Okay.
good idea to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Follow the guidelines from the state. So is
If
that,
they were- If they were going to do a supervised use, like let's say a basketball league wanted to go down and do youth, a supervised youth league type thing, in accordance with the state guidelines, would the board have an issue with that? So it would be supervised, it would follow the guidelines. There'd be somebody actually watching, make sure.
I don't know what kind of basketball you can play under.
No, right now, any of the youth sports leagues, you can't play games. It's just for drills and drills and exercises and stuff like that. So
yeah. Well, if the state guidelines open up the opportunity, I don't see any justification for us to wring our hands, but that's just my view.
okay.
okay. So what, I guess I'll rewatch what I missed about Littleton Life Care Center. That's doing okay.
Yeah, I can kind of hit the high points again if you'd like, Lisa.
Nope, that's okay. I'll just rewatch the video. All right. We talked, everybody, any other questions for Jim about playground or basketball courts, comments? Because the next thing I think we have to talk about is the drought and private wells.
This is COVID meeting.
Yeah, but I think that was something that we needed to talk about.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I got an email from Louise, I think it was today. So
I talked to Louise earlier today, and I'm just obviously nothing for action more since we're all here. I just wanted to kind of put it out there. It's a public meeting. I told Louise I would kind of update the board on that. The water department, because of the drought situation, the water department asked the Board of Health to restrictions on private wells, much like the restrictions the town has on public wells. So what I did was I sent Louise a legal opinion that we had received. When I say we, our office, from the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards, and with all of their opinions, they recommend that you contact your town council to make sure the application of that works for your community. And it seems to indicate that there may be conditions where boards of health could make those kinds of restrictions. So that information, I will share that with the rest of you so that you have that information. So one of the things I had discussed with Lisa, Lisa, why do I keep wanting to call Lisa? You're running the meeting tonight. That's why I keep wanting to say Lisa. Is with Louise is that the board may want to take a position of public education at this point, because all of whether you're getting water from the town water system or from your own private well, you're getting water from the aquifers beneath the ground, and those at some level are connected. And so the thought that if you put a irrigation well and you're not affecting the town's water supply isn't necessarily true. And so I've had a couple of conversations with people who are looking at putting in irrigation wells in town. I've had that conversation with them. Currently, your regulations you have no regulations on irrigation wells, so people can install them. So again, one of those discussion points for our subsequent meeting may be, and I think it's been on your agenda or on the back burner of your agenda at this point, to rework your well regulations. This may be something you might want to include in that, some discussion on irrigation wells.
Right. I think we had talked about getting that back off the back burner and talking about it with the PFAS issue, private wells, and probably get Janet to add that to our agenda and maybe see if the water department can be at our next meeting too.
One of the things I did before the meeting was send all of you the resource sheet from the Executive Office for Environmental Affairs on private wells and drought situation. So it's just kind of a question and answer. So whether you want to, I can talk to Janet and have her post that up on the board's website so that information's there, just so you can get the information out to people.
I was wondering and see what the sentiment is of the membership, but whenever the Board of Health decides to either revise or add new rules, it might be useful for us to, I guess, I don't want to use the word public hearing without getting some sense of how far or what we should do, the mechanism. But I certainly would like to have or would recommend that we invite or make a public notice and have a meeting where we hear from well owners themselves, not to basically tell us what to do, but basically get an idea so that we can advise them of what we understand about the issues regarding wells and the health issues, to get their feedback so that they become part of the process instead of us handing down rules from, in reaction to whether it's PFAS or anything else. So I'm just wondering if I don't know, I think the mechanism would be some sort of public meeting, whether it's formally a hearing before we put our rules in place. I don't know. My guess is we have to have a public hearing before we do rules, but I was just, I'm promoting here the idea of mailing out or getting in touch with well owners and giving them and who use it for their drinking water, and other well owners who use their well for irrigation to come in and basically get educated, as Jim pointed out, further, and give us feedback on where we're heading.
Yeah, I think education is definitely the first step. I mean, I don't think I'm of the mindset to tell anybody they can't use their private well. And just to roll things back for a minute, I mean, how much of our drought / lack of drinkable water situation is due to the condition of Spectacle Pond and the presence of PFAS? And why don't we take the measures to remedy that and get that under control rather than trying.
Yeah, you got my point, Kevin, exactly. Yep. And that is it may be more than one thing.
Yeah.
And I think the more people know from the more they understand, the better shape we can be in if we do have to make certain rules that say you have to, your well has to be, shall we say, the water from your well has to be filtered or should be filtered, whether it's for PFAS or for anything else that might come up during the testing. I don't know what else has appeared in the testing of the well water other than PFAS. And as far as the drought is concerned, people might not understand that even though we've had all this rain, that still doesn't relieve the drought. And there are lots of things here that are not instantly understood.
And so in preparation for tonight's meeting, I was just kind of searching around DEP's website. And so again, I'll send you after the meeting. Back in 2018, DEP put together some model outdoor watering regulations for communities to adopt. Again, they're tied to declarations. So declaration of drought, declaration of what else were the other two things? Water emergencies, and declaration of water supply conservation. So some kind of regulations that have a trigger that don't prohibit what private wells and irrigation, also water bans, but tie them to conditions that would make those things not appropriate.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
this is Gino. Is there any way the water department can send out like a letter like they do with the light department? Just let them know what the situation is if they use the water when we have a drought. It's just very important because if they run out of water, they're gonna have to go to and complain, right? Oh, we don't have no more water. So if the letter, you people, the water department through you will send something in the mail. So they, first of all, they have to find out how many people use the well. After that, you send to each one of them a letter to remind them how precious the water is in case a drought will come and they have no water coming up.
So I think it's a good point, Gino, what I hadn't thought of. At some of the water board meetings, I think the water commissioners have made a point that even though not everybody's on town water, everybody gets electricity from the light department, or most everybody. And so they send, I don't know how often you get billed for your electric, I assume it's monthly. So whether they could put that resource sheet that I was talking about in the next electric bill, just so it goes out to all homes. So whether you're on a well or whether you're a public water customer, you would get that information on water conservation.
Yeah, I read what you wrote on the agenda there. I appreciate it. I mean, people don't realize how important it is. Just because they have well, they think they're going to have well water forever. They don't realize that we use the water, and everybody use that particular area because it comes from aquifer.
Yeah.
You know.
And sometimes when you're talking to people about an irrigation well, it's more around not having to be in compliance with the bans and saving money, so you're not paying the water department for the water.
No, I understand that, but they don't know if they run out of water, they're going to complain, right? If
Right.
we educate them by sending them a letter through the water department, then they will know how important it is. If everybody is not using it because we don't have too much rain or something like that, I mean, they will be more cautious. Right now, I think they are very ignorant, not because they're not ignorant but they're ignorant because they don't know the facts.
Yep.
Okay, so do you think we'll get Janet to add that to our agenda for next Wednesday?
Good idea.
Jim, is Spec Pond online 100% or no? That's totally offline now.
That I don't know. I know I've seen the pipe down 119, so I'd have to talk to the water department.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I know my thought was that they were trying to move the water to a different location that maybe offers treatment.
Yeah, they're trying to move it down to Wickham, right?
Beaver Brook.
Okay, so that makes sense. Beaver Brook, because it's going down 119. So I assume that project's complete. I don't see them working on the side of 119 anymore. So right. I'm not sure if their capacity is back online. That I'd have to ask the water department about.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's some way they can get a reverse osmosis filter just to get Spec Pond back online, and we can sort of mitigate some of the drought concerns.
So I think they're separate issues, but I think that the water department's working with somebody about what might be a cost-effective and effective PFAS treatment system for Spec Pond.
All right.
Yeah, I think because of the drought there, it's a whole different subject. So
once you enter a drought, you're never quite sure when you're going to get out of it. So, it's one of those things where you're trying to save the resource you have so that,
right.
If it's a 6 month, 8 month, you still have water for people when they turn the faucets on.
2020, it's been a great year so far.
Wonderful.
And then we still have that deal with Poland Spring, right? No, I'm not joking. Didn't they line something up? So
I think they had I think they had water for the people that had contaminated wells. What the water department had a deal with them for that.
Yeah.
So still an option for people with private wells that are contaminated. So.
Right.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about? Anybody have any questions, comments? Scott's not on, right?
No.
Okay,
Jimmy, I wanted to thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate all the time that you dedicated. We
Well, thank you,
appreciate
Jim.
it.
Thank you.
all right. So next meeting, our regular Board of Health meeting is next Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
As far as I know, still on Zoom because I don't think we're going to be back at the town hall for any particular time.
I'd say we
But
keep
I
Zoom
guess
forever.
we'll figure that
7
out
o'clock?
eventually. So does
It's gonna be
anybody,
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock next Wednesday for our regular Board of Health meeting?
Okay,
And can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make
Make
a
a-
motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
Do a roll call. So Gino,
Yes.
Kevin,
Kevin Baker, yes.
Mike,
Mike Zeldin, yes.
and Lisa Flanagan, yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Yep.
Good night.